Time is flowing so fast, and soon there's nothing left of us. The more we wait, the more we regret, so please don't wait anymore. Well, hello my friends, we meet again. It has been a while, where should we begin? Today I will be getting in depth into Wintersun's now completed epic two-part saga of time. We will be getting pretty in depth here today, more in a podcast format rather than my normal videos here, so throw me in a second monitor, go for a workout or go for a walk, crack a beverage and get comfy, we're about to get existential. And also don't forget to check out my other deep dives here on my channel. When I listen to the album, there seems to be a very profound sadness that permeates this album. A sadness which seems to grow with every listen. A lot of these lyrics seem to be talking about Yari's struggles with the creative process, and even seem to be referencing events that took place after all of the album was written, which of course was over 12 years ago now. It is just so incredibly bittersweet to listen to this album now. Essentially, my thesis here is that the time to delay was intentional. Now hold on. I know this is a very controversial statement, but before your fingers go off in the comments, hear me out. First, I will say I believe Yari had every intention of releasing this as initially planned. However, the subconscious mind is a very powerful thing. Subconsciously, deep down, he knew that releasing the album way later, over a decade later, would in fact make the album and the story that it tells even more poignant. So whether it was self-sabotage, procrastination, lack of RAM, whatever the case it does not matter for the delay. We can only judge based upon the actions of others, not by what they say. So judging solely upon action, Time 2 was released 12 years after Time 1, and we have to judge it based on this fact and nothing else. And based on this fact, Time 2 hits way harder than it would have if it were simply released a few years later like originally implied. As we listen to these songs for the first time, songs about the passage of time and the burden it places upon us, the unyielding law of nature that things must appear and then return to nothingness like before, the energy of creation and the dark clouds and storms that it all brings, listening to this really puts front and center our own mortality. You are reminded of yourself 12 years ago when the first time came out. A full decade of youth on your side, the feeling of hearing these grand and majestic songs and the wonderfully complex instrumentation. But now, 12 years later, we listen to the final half of it for the first time. New wrinkles on our faces. An entire world which is completely different. This album forces us to think about and come to terms with the passage of time. In fact, this album does more than that. The album literally used time as part of the storytelling. It made us wait 12 years to hear it. 12 years of life, which have since passed. 12 years of anticipation, 12 years of hope, 12 years of despair and anger. You are 12 years older. I am 12 years older. Yet, this music is supposed to continue right off where Time 1 ended? Fat chance. I remember well when Time 1 came out. How I felt, what I looked like, what the world looked like. Now, upon hearing Time 2, this crushingly heavy sense of melancholy overcomes me. Not because of the music, which of course is very excellent, but simply for the feeling and acute awareness of the time that has passed. I hope this is making sense to you guys so far, but the time in between these albums is part of the story, right? It's not just simply two albums listening back to back, unless of course you listen to the first one and then the second one back to back for the first time, you know what I mean? But I may be called an apologist for this video, but I honestly don't really care. I'm simply here to discuss my thoughts about the beauty and intricacies of heavy metal music here on the channel. So let us do a very shallow surface level analysis of the story here on Time. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us get into it here. And just a quick note, I am very aware that English is not Yari's mother tongue, so any clumsy wordings or odd sayings, which to be fair, there aren't that many, I will be overlooking. Not only is it difficult to write in another language, it is even more difficult to write about such deep and visceral topics in a second language. In essence, Time deals with how the fire of life burns brightly for a time, but this burning comes at a cost, a heavy cost to the individual. It uses life force as a fuel, and eventually the flame must fade away back into the darkness. It seems to be telling the story from the perspective of someone old, whose time is running short. This person is well aware of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Yet, I cannot help but notice that this story which is being told has many, many eerie parallels to real-life events surrounding this album. Passion burning and dying. This is a continual cycle, one which has parallels down from microscopic organisms to the creative cycle and art forms, day and night, the seasons on Earth, and even to the lifespan of stars. Everything must come, burn for a brief period, and then return again to nothingness. This is represented most by the opening moments of When Time Fades Away, the opening instrumental, which begins with the sound of waves crashing upon a beach, the very same sound in which the closing track Silver Leaves ends us upon. The album leads us in a circle, an eternal circle in which the cycle of creation, life, and death endlessly repeats. I find it interesting that the sound of the ocean is used to represent this. The ocean is essentially a vast, endless, and unknowable part of our world. The seashore, thus, is the barrier between these two worlds, terrestrial and marine life. Yet here in time, it is an obvious metaphor for this earthly world and the more metaphysical, spiritual world which we come from. The album comes and returns back to the sea. We could even look at this as a sort of a cosmic sea. Where we come from, we must return. As the sound of the sea waves begins to fade away, we get the sound of a harp playing a shortened version of the main melody which will follow. To me, this sounds like gentle snowfall, like the first few snowflakes before a snowstorm. The metaphor of winter is used very often here on Time. In fact, the first song with lyrics is entitled Sons of Winter and Stars. Winter is often a metaphor for death, for darkness, sadness, loneliness, stillness, and if you're not from a northern climate where you get substantial winters, the stillness and silence of a winter's night is something to behold. Almost all life on pause, the trees are barren, animals are hibernating. All that is left is the silence as the snowfall on the ground absorbs most of the sound around you. Yet, while winter represents death, snowfall and death brings forth new life as it nourishes the earth. From winter, we get spring. However, before we get to the rebirth of life in spring, we must go through the withering of life in the fall and winter. The snowfall begins to get heavier and heavier as the music becomes more dense, and soon the storm of creation comes in full force. The opening lyrics give a good indication of the story which is to come. Quote, "The awakening of darkened skies, falling from the dark, the symphony of dying lights, behold the rain of stars. The blazing fire came pouring down, falling from the dark, and life and death became unbound. Sons of winter and stars, rise." The song is introducing us to the story here. We as people, as living beings in the universe, are the sons of this eternal winter of death and the warm life-giving embrace of the stars. Quote, "We are the sons of winter and stars. We've come from afar beyond time. Forever the fire burns in our hearts. Our world shall never die. In the arms of the wind we ride till dawn. As the waves of the ocean grind so strong, we wander in the stars until we're gone. Our fate is sealed by eternal sun." In the chorus of the song is where we find these lyrics, which features all the main metaphors which we will see throughout the rest of the album here. We have winter, stars, fire, and the ocean. Here the chorus essentially says that we, as the sons of winter and stars, are destined to wander throughout time and space endlessly in this ever-repeating cycle. Our world shall never die, meaning of course the spiritual, metaphysical energy which manifests itself briefly as life as we know it. We know this to be the case as the song mentions life, withering, and dying many times during the song. Quote, "I see the land of fading sun and rising mountains, and I finally feel that I have found my home. But oh, how it feels so cold when my dreams wither in fragments of time, revealing that this land will die." Notice here how it is this land will die versus in the chorus it was this world. This brings us to another topic of discussion, one which I will briefly cover, and that topic in this album is reincarnation. Reincarnation and rebirth are very prevalent themes throughout this album, one which also works thematically with the more Asian-inspired look and some of the instruments on this album. This is a very general overview for an incredibly complex topic, but in Western and Christian cultures, time is linear. For example, we have creation, the fall, and the time before Christ, the time after Christ, and then when the time comes, salvation, the apocalypse, right? We have a beginning and an end. Whereas in many Asian cultures, time is viewed much more cyclically. Death is not an end, but a new beginning. Everything repeats. Here we begin to see the scope of the story. If you think about it in seasons, the story takes place right around the autumn of this life cycle. Autumn going to the fall. Quote, "Before the wind so cold, falling snow, the world was shattered in the fragments of time, so soft and cold. Before the autumn rains, dying moon cast down so weak, the coldness will again awake Frozen lake, the dancing spirits, calling me to join the cosmic dream. The silence is tempting me now. Autumn gives way to winter, the twilight of the seasons. Before the autumn rains, the coldness will again awake. This passage from the fourth part of the song gives a great summation of what is to come in the album. Quote, "Until we fade away, fate will find its way. Until we drift into the dark, it's not too late to find a way. Fate will find its way. And fly in cold embrace of stars, until we fade away, mysteries of time, until we drift into the dark, unfolding in cosmic dreams. It's not too late to find a way, leaving life and death meaningless, and fly in cold embrace of stars, before the revelation of infinity, embrace the stars. The energy flows in me like a river of stars. I'm surrounded by the circle of fire, but eternal ice has frozen my heart. I'm lost in the pathways of time. Now the time has come for us." Really, really great lyrics here. I also think that this part may be musically my favorite on the album. We see some of the metaphors which will be expanded upon later, such as the circle of fire and energy. Really, really excellent stuff. Sons of Winter and Stars deals with the much more metaphysical and abstract nature of the cycle, whereas the third song, Land of Snow and Sorrow, shows a much more personal interpretation of this cycle. Quote, "Far away there's a land of snow and sorrow. Time has made the frozen tears fall like rain from the starlit sky, and I feel so cold I can't make it tomorrow. Oh, but the night will see where this path will lead my life. Endless field of snow at the edge of the world, and the wailing winds so cold scar my face. I'm going insane. I am lost from the light, and the memories follow me in the night. I'm left in the arms of winter, and I am carried far away, far away." Land of Snow and Sorrow is a much slower song than Sons of Winter and Stars. It feels cold and lonesome. In this song, the character is describing how cold it is as he reaches the winter of this grand cycle. In the cold winds which come from the end of the seasons, it drives him insane. It is preposterous, yet as natural as anything we do. It is a grand mystery, quote, "But the night will see where this path will lead my life." End quote. More metaphors about stars, winter and night. The line, quote, "I'm left in the arms of winter and I am carried far away," end quote, will be used again later on in the song, and the meaning is very clear here. I will soon die and I will be carried far away. The song seems to be much more depressive outlook on the cycle. The chorus repeats these lines a few times during the song. Quote, "Night is falling over my home, the land of snow and sorrow. Oh, carry me away from the cold, and I fall asleep. I will dream the last dream. All I was is gone now, and sorrow is all I feel." Again, we see these metaphors of day and night, coldness and winter. It relates again to this line in Sons of Winter and Stars. Quote, "The coldness will again awake, frozen lake, the dancing spirits, calling me to join the cosmic dream. The silence is tempting me now." You can see that even this life cycle repeats itself day to day in our life. Sleeping and dreaming and awakening. You repeat the cycle of life, death, and rebirth every single day without even realizing it. The sleep cycle could also be looked as sorrowful. We miss out on many hours a day of our precious few hours that we get. Yet this analog for death, which is sleep, is not viewed as sorrowful, as tomorrow is filled with new energy, new life. Yet the coldness of actual death is frightening and lonesome, filled with sorrow. Yet according to Reincarnation, the only difference between these two is, well, the time scale. Quote, "Drifting away from the warmth of the darkness, caressed by the light of a million stars, the darkness will always be a part of my heart, until I'm carried away by the winter's arms." We see the carried away by winter line reappear here. Here he drifts away from the warmth of the darkness. This darkness, I assume, is the existential dread that most people go through at some point in their lives. Let us call it mortality salience. Once it happens, you will always carry this darkness with you until you are finally carried away by it, when you are carried away by winter's arms. Land of Snow and Sorrow then expands upon the story. It shows how one can be caught up in this cycle and how knowledge of this cycle can lead you into despair and sorrow. Yet it is simply one small part of the grander picture, so you must carry the darkness with you and face the coming winter with open arms. We then move on into another instrumental, which honestly functions more of an intro to the song Time than a standalone piece of music. I do love the acoustic guitar strumming in this one here. We are then brought directly into the song Time. Time to me feels like the capstone for the album. Somewhat obviously, I suppose. It incorporates and contains essentially all the elements which make this whole project so ambitious and special. The riffage, the orchestration, the grand choruses, the solos, the slower clean parts, the singing, the screaming. It just has it all. And in that sense, it works perfectly lyrically for the story as well. Here, as well in the song, I begin to feel that profound sadness that permeates Time too, whenever you listen to it again. Quote, "Darkness and frost are starting to reach the heart of this land with a cold disease. Sleep now for a while before the storm awakes, and one day it will reward you for the burden of weight." The first passage of lyrics is essentially retelling the story of what we already know. It gives us a premonition of some sort of storm that's coming. The character's time is running short, and he can feel the end coming. This is the darkness and frost. Yet before he must go, he feels there will be a storm coming. Now, what exactly the storm is, we will find out later, but one day it will reward you for the burden of weight really seems to hit that profound sadness note. How long have we waited for this? How long has Yari been sitting and waiting for us to hear the whole thing? The parallels to the story and real-life events are extremely eerie, especially if this whole thing was really actually written 20 years ago. It's very fascinating to go for this. I'll just also want to point out that the first signs of winter seasonally are actually early darkness and frost upon the ground. Quote, "The roots go deep into the frozen dead ground. Listen to the land of snow, it makes no sound. For ages searching the warmth of the sun. If it never finds me, I can die as one." This passage is interesting. Here he is searching for the warmth of the sun. No longer the warmth of the darkness, it's the sun now. But if he never finds it, he can die as one? Perhaps this is maybe a clumsy translation of a Finnish idiom, but to me it is saying that this energy, the sun, its warmth, while it could be viewed as a good thing, it is also a burden. I view the sun and its metaphors here as a gift of energy, creative energy, let's say. It is also a curse. This energy must come, but if it never finds him, he can die as one. Whole, I suppose you could say. It's an interesting metaphor, especially considering how much of burden on Yari and the band in general Time 2 became afterwards. One can only imagine how much it weighed upon him for all those years, having this beautiful piece of music just not be completed yet. We then move on into the wonderfully grand, moving, and beautiful chorus. Truly one of my favorites in all of music. Quote, "Time will go on, and we are drifting away in the night. I've been searching so long, but I will find you even if it takes my whole life. But tonight I feel so alone, and I know that you are forever gone. Oh, time, don't fade away when I need you here. Oh, please, don't leave me now." Here again, this chorus brings up this metaphor of night. It seems here that he is always searching for the warmth of the sun. The sun again represents creation, energy, vitality. We are the sons of winter and stars after all. However, here he is lamenting that even after all this time, searching for the sun, he may never find it, and time is running out. As I am moving more and more through this analysis, I'm beginning to see this as a grandiose metaphor for perfectionism, along with all the other topics presented. Here in this dark moment, he feels entirely alone, knowing that each day is forever gone, one day closer to the night. Yet the sun is still not in reach. Can it ever be reached? I am not sure. Can you ever achieve perfection? Can you ever get to exactly what you want your project, your creative energy to be? Quote, "You want so much from me. I feel nothing but grief and despair. How can I make you feel again? All my dreams are just visions I can't bear. You want something that I can't give. I cannot keep living in this bitter dream. And I don't care anymore. It feels like my life is ending." Very depressive and sad lyrics here. And as the song evolves through its many passages and solos, we arrive at this set of lyrics. You know, it's very depressing, almost crisis-like lyrics, which are very eerie to the way events worked out in reality. You can almost imagine him thinking this all to himself afterwards, right? It's very fascinating. Quote, "Oh, another year gone by, nothing has changed in my life, and time goes on forever and ever, and it waits for no one." This is simply reiterating what he was meaning from the verse before. Time marches on, but nothing changes, yet everything changes. One of the strangest feelings. Days go by slow, yet the years speed by. The song essentially repeats the chorus again and ends the first half of Time on these last lyrics. Quote, "When time fades away, and I'll never feel the same, and I fade away when time fades away. and I'll never feel the same. So it seems that Time 1 really ends its half of the story on a very low and depressive note, almost in defeat. Time fades away and so does he. The ending piano, which plays a rendition of the ending instrumental, ends without resolution, leading us into the last few minutes of ambient instrumentals which follows. To this end, with the swelling synths and that little Asian-inspired melody, it almost sounds like meditation music, music to change someone's mindset, perhaps preparing for what's to come, preparing for this upcoming storm which he knows will arrive. And if Time 2 was never released, the way this story ends would be almost uncomfortably bittersweet. We would be left on this low note, this defeated character who, just like this unfinished project, would both fade away with time. Yet, this is not what happened. To me, it is clear that Time 1 and 2 have different outlooks on the same eventual, inevitable event, and that is death and the passage of time. So let us now move on into Time 2. But before we get to it, if you are enjoying this, remember to hit that subscribe button to hear more of my rambling and meandering thoughts on metal music. At the writing of this video, I have probably listened to Time 2 about 10 or so times. Each time I notice something new about the extremely dense instrumentation, but what about the story of Time 2? How will Time 2 wrap up what Time 1 left us on? And so if you listen to both albums back to back, Fields of Snow, the first track and instrumental, more or less is simply a continuation of the ending ambience of the song Time. It again begins with a gentle piano arpeggio, which reminds me a lot of gentle snow falling, continuing this theme of cycles. Remember how we described the beginning of When Time Fades Away started out very similarly, with the sound of gentle arpeggio like snow falling. You know, it continues the theme of cycles. Maybe this is a redemption, a start over? It's very interesting to think about. The song builds, foreshadowing some of the things which we'll hear, notably a lot of the melodies which we will eventually hear on The Way of Fire. I think I also recognize some themes from Storm as well as from Silver Leaves here as well. We then move on into Way of the Fire. The song explodes with newfound intensity and energy. Quote, "Fire the oldest one, the force in the beginning of time. Show me your face and your fierce eyes. Reveal the secrets those flames hide. Pass on the wisdom and strength, and I shall honor this legacy for my dying day, until the fire will burn all the memories away." Very bombastic lyrics which are in stark contrast to the depressive ending of Time 1. It almost feels reborn with new energy and vigor. Here we see the fire, the sun, the energy, whatever you want to call it, almost being worshipped. The fire contains vast strength and wisdom. This fire is legacy. It's something to be honored. Yet the fire will also burn all the memories away. This is the creative energy which consumes a chosen few. Flow state, in the zone, whatever you want to call it, this is what Yari is talking about. Unrelenting devotion to creative energy is the way of the fire. Quote, "Fire the greatest one, light the path I have chosen. Lead me away from these wintry meadows. Show me the way of the treacherous shadows. But nothing lasts forever. Even this fire I have inside." Here in this second verse, Yari is now explicitly stating that this fire will lead him away from the wintry meadows, or phrased differently, the land of snow and sorrow. Yet again, this fire will not last forever, so you must strike while the iron is hot, or make hay while the sun shines, whatever metaphor or idiom you want to use. We now move on to the chorus of the song, which sort of simply rephrases what the opening few verses have said. "Fire the oldest one burns wild inside my frozen heart. Fire the greatest one, but I can never understand the way of the fire. Fire the oldest one gives light to my chosen path so dark. Oh fire, we can never tame the way of the fire." Following the excellent chorus, we get a deeper look into the new perspective which Time 2 brings. I will just put all these together and we can look at them in context here. I also find it interesting that the line, "we can never tame the fire," is here. This energy cannot be tamed, it's uncontrollable in a sense. Flames and darkness reaching the stars, million sparks rise, dancing into the sky. I'm mesmerized by the blaze, I'm tempted to adjust my fate. So long I've been longing for the feeling of tranquility. I will leave this wretched world behind before it falls apart. I see the sky so calm, and I can't wait anymore. I can't wait anymore. Coldness of winter night, I will find my way somehow. I will find my way. Beyond the stars, a new world awaits me. A new world awaits. Through the fields of snow we walk, the endless path of stars. Will we reach the horizon? This section really reminds me of the middle of the song Time with the call and response type vocals. Excellent stuff. Here he is recounting the same things but a different perspective. The end of his time on Earth. More themes of reincarnation on new worlds that are waiting just beyond the horizon. The line of sparks and flames coming from the darkness and rising into the stars and heavens is a very, very interesting one. To me, this is a metaphor for using the creative energy, the fire which we have inside us, as a way to create art. Art, which could be the closest thing we have to divinity and a lasting legacy in this earthly plane, as what is left after you are gone. Memories and the art that you create and the people that you've touched. Very, very interesting lyrics here. Quote, "Come follow me, eternal star. I will guide you away from the dark. Through the coldness of winter, we will find our way in the blaze of the fire's light. The sun of the fading dream, I can almost reach it, but it's still so far away. The fire will die in our hearts when it's time to leave this world behind." Here he states explicitly what separates his album from Time 1. It's way more hopeful and more optimistic, guiding away from the darkness and coldness of the winter's night into the blaze of the fire's light. Again, this is all just so eerily parallel to what took place in real life, and of course, I don't know Yari, I don't know what he struggled with. I didn't keep up to date with any of the Time updates until it was nearly released, but it really feels to me like he is almost speaking directly to himself here, urging himself to use that creative fire and to finish this project which has been such a burden on him for so long. This is part of the reason why I think this delay and the time in between these two albums was inevitable. It was subconscious even, you know what I mean? The delay needed to happen for this album to hit as hard as it does. Quote, "The fire will die in our hearts when it's time to leave the world behind." It is a very interesting way to end the song. I'm not sure what to make of this. Perhaps he's saying that as long as we walk this life, the fire will always burn, consuming us until it's time to enter the cosmic dream. We then move on to One with the Shadows, which to me parallels Land of Snow and Sorrow. A more simple, slower paced, and austere, if it is even possible to use this word with describing any part of this album, song. It echoes the lyrical themes of Land of Snow and Sorrow as well. Quote, "These black clouds in the sky will follow me through the end of time. They won't leave me alone. They will always be there in the sky. The dark shadows in the night are restless. Until the day I die, they will always be there, haunting in the cold and misty night." I really feel that the song is almost Jungian in a sense. I don't have the time to explain this fully, but Carl Jung essentially says that to become a whole person, one must face his own shadow. Perhaps that we was referencing earlier on. One must face his own shadow, embrace it as part of his identity, and learn to use it strategically. So in a way, I interpret the song as a metaphor for depression. These dark shadows are restless, ever following him until the end of time. It almost seems like he is referencing the shadow of this unfinished album as well. Maybe this shadow is what he is facing and needs to embrace. Quote, "Darkness in my eyes, and a sorrow so deep inside. Oh, how dark is the light that follows me through this empty life." This passage is what brings to me the Jungian energy here. How dark is the light that follows me through this empty life? This light, this creative fire, is the light in his life, but it comes at a grave cost. It follows him everywhere, this burden to always create. It's a fascinating look into the mind of Yari here and sort of his perspective on what was going on. I quote, "The old and dying sun warms me with a light so weak, and when that light is gone, I know it's too late to say to you what I feel, the warmth of the dying sun. Caress me one more time, the feeble light will soon be gone. Please shine for me one last time. One last time." This passage here almost feels like he is bargaining with the fire. The darkness is overtaking, and the warmth from the sun grows smaller and smaller as the doubt and darkness begins to creep over him. He begs for the sun to shine on him one last time. Quote, "So hard I've tried to face the truth. So hard I've tried to live. But now it's time to leave the past behind. I am now one with the shadows." I really can't help but to see yet again the parallels here to real life. He has tried to face the truth and live, but it's time to leave the past behind. The album must be done, and so he must become one with the shadows, embrace the darkness and coming storm, and buckle down and use the way of the fire to finish this project which has burdened him so intensely, and a project which has consumed his life for so long. Which then leads us into the song Ominous Clouds. Obviously a reference to the incoming storm. Before a storm, before a storm, you usually see some very ominous clouds. It's a very beautiful instrumental which sees Yari doing his best Yngwie interpretation, which I honestly love. Ominous clouds then gives way to storm, which starts out with a lone guitar playing a very Wintersun typical melody before the storm fully hits, and in a flash we are beset by tremolo pick guitars, blast beats, and massive orchestration. Ominous clouds and storm are very similar to Darkness and Frost and the Song of Time. Ominous clouds and storm represent to me the ultimate challenge. If Darkness and Frost and Time represent the giving in to depression, the shadows, the night, the winter, ominous clouds and storm represent the storm and the toll it takes on this person. The battle, the internal battles. The sky darkens, the wind picks up, and the character must face it all, with the way of fire burning in his heart. Quote, "The burden gets heavier every day, and the passion is dying. And when it's all gone, all I can do is wither away. I swore that I would never put myself through this again, but I was seduced by the storm, and I knew I'd have to fight this to the end." Again, this is all just so bittersweet and deeply profoundly sad to read these lyrics. Again, supposedly this was all written over 12 years ago at the very least. It seems almost prophetic in a way. He was seduced by the storm, by the energy of creation, to create this massive and extremely ambitious project of time. When the passion is gone, all he can do is wither away, but we know that eventually he fought his way through the storm and finished the album and delivered it to us. So it's very interesting and very prophetic in a way. Quote, "I'm heading into the storm. My heart is burning like fire. The poison is flowing in my veins. It's killing my senses and turning my blood into gray. Something is draining my strength. Something is trying to control me. I roam in the shadows. I'm fighting the demons of my dreams. But they won't leave me alone. Leave me alone." Here, this desire to fight with the passion still burning within him is made much more clear. Here he relates this fire to poison, slowly killing him and draining him of all his life force. Yet this dream, this ambitious project, won't leave him alone, as it is destiny to finish it. It is his fate. He mentions fate several times during this album. Is this the fate that he's talking about, to finish this whole thing? Quote, "I had to leave everything behind, had to make a sacrifice so I could capture the essence of time. I shall capture the essence of time. I needed to hide in the dark. I needed to get away from the sad words that you whispered to me. They remained torturing in my mind, and it's driving me insane. You drove me insane." To me, in this section, Yari is talking directly to time itself, as if it is a person, I suppose. He tried to capture the essence of time within music, an incredibly ambitious project, yet his own shadows whispered sad words to him which tortured him, drove him insane. He had to leave everything behind to attempt to create this massive project. Just think of how many years went by, how many years without music, and we know that Yari is very profoundly, he makes a lot of music, right? So to release nothing for so long must have just been so crushing. It's just profoundly sad lyrics. This project took everything and he had to hide away, to get away. I can only imagine the frustration, the hopelessness, and sadness that must have overcome him when he first shelved the project. Quote, "Oh, how wistful and pale is the look in your eyes. There was nothing that we could have done. This light was bound to die. Oh, how soon the skies turned to crimson and black, and the great shadow surrounded this beauty so fast. Oh, how suddenly a dark chaos was born, and the love in my heart was ripped away by the might of the storm." The love in his heart ripped away by the might of the storm. It's really incredibly deeply sad lyrics. There was nothing that could be done. The light was bound to die, and there was nothing that could be done. It really seems like he's talking about how this project turned into something way bigger and more dark and sad and burdensome than it ever could have been, because everything just sort of spiraled out of control. The song then ends with this passage, quote, "But the memory will stay, whirling in the winds of time forever. And the love in my heart was ripped away by the might of the storm. We never had the chance to say goodbye, but the memory will stay, whirling in the winds of time, forever, forever." Here, despite the love being ripped apart by the storm, the memory remains with him and he longs to say goodbye to it. Perhaps finishing the Time project was his final goodbye to this monster, this project, this essence of fire and this creative energy. Storm ends on a similar depressing note to the song Time. While Time is about time running out, this is about a passion project consuming someone whole and spitting them out dead. Both have parallels to the cycles of life and reincarnation I've spoken about many times during this analysis. We then move on to the final song, Silver Leaves. First of all, what are silver leaves and what do they represent? If you don't live in northern climates, which get a good decent snowfall, you probably have never even seen this phenomenon before. But when leaves fall from the trees in the fall, they are usually a bright and vibrant shade of yellow, red, or orange. However, time passes and the snow falls, the leaves fall as well. The leaves become buried underneath the snow. So in the dark of night, after winter has passed and the snow begins to melt, these leaves, which over the course of winter have begun to decompose and lose their vibrant color and turn to a darker gray. And as the snow melts, it reveals some of these leaves, which in the right moonlight appear silver. These are the silver leaves. The remnants of the past season, the past life. It's all buried underneath the snow of winter and of death. These leaves give new nutrients to the soil and thus return their energy back to the earth, all part of the same grand cycle. Truly gorgeous metaphor for an extremely, extremely gorgeous song. I absolutely love the main melody which plays throughout much of the song. It's an absolutely gorgeous and ethereal melody, one which, much like the themes in the album, it repeats itself in cycles over and over. Quote, "The morning wind, oh, it whispers so carefully. It's so quiet here, yet thunder roars at the dark mountains. The seasons are passing like days, and I feel the coldness surrounding me. A long, long sleep is all that I need now." Silver Leaves seems to take place after the storm has passed. The world is quiet in the morning after a storm. Everything is still damp from the rain. Yet the echoes of the storm, which has passed, still echo in the distance. It's still storming, but it's far away now. It seems that all his energy, all his fire has been expended, and now he is ready for the long night, the deep sleep, the rest of death. Quote, "Time is flowing so fast, and soon there's nothing left of us. The more we wait, the more we regret. So please don't wait anymore. Tides will bring new life, but tomorrow it all could be over. I've got so much in my life, but all I can think and all I can see is you." Again, just more very profoundly sad lyrics. The more we wait, the more we regret, so please don't wait anymore. It's just almost tragic considering what came about in real life. Here we see the metaphor of the tides and ocean once again. "Time is flowing so fast" lyric is very, very interesting. It said the reason why time seemed to stand still when we were younger and how it seems to speed up with ever-increasing intensity as we age is because, as a child, the percentage of our life that one day contains is so much more higher than the percentage a day represents when we're older. If you're only 7, a day is a large chunk of your life, versus if you're 77, a day is very, very small part of your entire life. It is a very interesting and horrifying thought to be sure. It seems that somewhere during the storm he realized that essentially it is now or never. All he can think and see is you, this fire of creation and energy. Maybe this you is time itself, the Time the album. Quote, "Stormy skies surrounding me now, and soon everything will turn into dark, but I still see the beauty inside your eyes, and when I die, I'm buried with the silver leaves. If only I could understand my dreams." During this brief respite of mourning, he had this clarity of thought, and now that it's all over, a new storm begins to take shape, turning everything once again into dark. The cycle always repeats. He is then buried with the silver leaves, which represent the passing of one age to another, one cycle to another. He laments that if only he could understand his dreams, which, as we explained earlier, dreams and sleep represent this grand cycle on a daily level. Thus, if one could understand the dreams, could they understand this grand cycle to a greater degree? Quote, "Watching alone the purple blue sky, I feel so blind without stars in the night. Standing alone here, just waiting to die. It's so dark here without your shining light. Can't you see that I'm trying? Can't you see that I'm trying? Can't you see that I'm dying? Shine like the sun before time fades away. Behind the horizon, I will wait for you. There's still a little time left, but if I should die, know that I fought so hard and died a warrior's death. If only I could understand my dreams. If only I could cross the stormy seas." I just put this entire passage together here as it's harder to separate these lines. Here the character is standing alone, looking at the starless sky. The energy is all gone. He's waiting to die. He tells us that he has fought so hard. He has fought this all like a warrior. The warrior is an ancient archetype of humanity. It stands for fighting for what you believe, despite the overwhelming odds and the immense suffering. So to die a warrior's death means to die with dignity, to die knowing that you did all you could with the energy you were given. Again, he repeats the line, if only I could understand my dreams. Yet he adds, if only I could cross the stormy seas. A line which again refers back to this endless grinding ocean. If only we could ever cross this ocean. I like to reckon this as Yari saying that he finished it, he gave it all, so he died a warrior's death essentially. He gave it all, he sacrificed everything for this project of time. We then get to the last verse of the Time project in Finnish, Yari's mother tongue. I don't speak Finnish, so I found a translation online. It says, quote, I shall see you once again, but my time is running out. I will leave a piece of me with leaves of silver. Sometimes I will hear the silence fill up this emptiness, and in the end, I'll bury myself within the leaves of silver. This ending passage being spoken in Finnish is not just artistry. To me, him speaking this last verse in his mother tongue is representative of returning home. We come from our mothers, and the words that they speak to us are the first that we hear. Thus, to finish the song in his mother's tongue means that we are returning home. We are the silver leaves. When we die, that is our true home. The cycle will continue, life will be reborn, yet the one constant is death, to be buried with the silver leaves. The Time project is one incredibly ambitious project, and even after analyzing it here, I feel as I am just barely scratching the surface of what it holds. It simultaneously tells us a tale of Yari's own struggles with the fire, the creative energy, how perfectionism is pitted directly against the fact that we only have limited time. It tells the story of death and rebirth, mostly during the autumn of one's life, and how one deals and processes this fact. How the stars, the sun, the oceans, the weather, the seasons, our own lives, our day-to-day activities, and perhaps most importantly, our creative ambitions are all held accountable by the immovable and unchangeable cycles of time. Thanks for watching, you guys. Leave your thoughts down below. I'm always interested in hearing what you guys have to say. So, yeah, really appreciate it. If you made it this far, let me know your favorite track and what it means to you. I'm always intrigued to read your comments. With that, I am out. And with newfound anxiety and energy, I must now move on to creating more content and music for you all to expend my energy before my own time runs out here. Much love. Good night.